Hey there, my name's Miriam and I'm a poet and I'm sitting in an armchair, hence the armchair poet. Now I wanted to share two pieces of poetry with you today, one of which I wrote and one of which I'll explain in a moment. But the first piece I decided to share because I've been thinking about how we choose to respond to the situations in which we find ourselves. And I was thinking of this poem about a woman called Esther. So Esther is a woman who was written about in the Bible, and she found herself in some pretty awful situations, and she had to choose how she responded to them. And her choices ended up impacting the life of an entire nation. So this piece is called Marble Tiles, and it's about how she chose to respond. She didn't start out brave. If I die, I die. So now she walks marble floors ringing under fearful feet much louder than she would desire. Slap, 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 the sound of sandaled soles on cold stone tiles, echoing inescapably in grand, excessive, extortionate throne room and pillared aisles. If I die, I die. Did she want to hide behind a pillar that day, walking heartbeat, blocking throat toward a distant king? She didn't start out brave. If I die, I die. Did she walk lightly, try to shrink the weight of her existence in fright, yearn to fall through the floor away from indolent stare? Did she keep her eyes lowered, tracing the lines on cool stone tiles, anything to avoid the fearsome face of the king who held her life in his days? She didn't start out brave. If I die, I die. I see her in my mind's eye, Hadassah, queen in a world of rabid volatility, a trumpish king holding her mortality, yet she is walking tall with dignity, carried by the silent prayers of those she could have abandoned. She didn't start out brave. If I die, I die. She made a choice that day, not between certain or almost certain death, that's hardly a choice at all, and her motives, fear or sacrifice, some combination, we'll never know for sure. But the one choice she did have, the move from fear to courage, to choose the strangeness of trust no matter what came with each fearful, brave step forward. And what of us? Do we occasionally walk a throne room in trepidation, with heart in throat wishing for silence, invisibility, dreading to meet the eyes of our King in his glory? I know sometimes I do. But then I see, from the corner of my lowered eye, another pair of sandaled feet, walking next to mine. Forget me not, gently, murmurs the divine. I was not crucified for you to enter this throne room, terrified, but kind, he waits with me, behind the pillar in the outer court, on those days when I am shy of the throne room walk. But do we forget sometimes, perhaps, that our king is not Xerxes? We don't have to start out brave. With our king we live, we die, and in his life we live again. We can in time learn to dance and smile, the throne room's ringing, singing, marble tiles. The end. I know sometimes it feels like we're living in a world of rabid volatility now, but others have lived in worlds like that and have made decisions about how they respond, and I'm encouraged by that. Now, just a quick note, if you hear lots of rattling, it's just the budgerigars in their home behind the camera, and they're quite happy, so that's why they're making lots of noises. Now this piece is a bit facetious, a bit of fun, but sometimes that's what we need. I didn't write this piece, it's by a guy called Edward Lear, and it's called The Pobble Who Has No Toes. The Pobble who has no toes had once as many as we. When they said, "Some day you may lose them all," he replied, "Fish fiddle-dee-dee." And his Aunt Jabista made him drink lavender water tinged with pink, for she said, "The world in general knows there's nothing so good for a Pobble's toes." The Pobble who has no toes swam across the Bristol Channel. But before he set out, he wrapped his nose in a piece of scarlet flannel. For his Aunt Jabista said no harm can come to his toes if his nose is warm, and it is perfectly known that a Pobble's toes are safe, provided he minds his nose. The Pobble swam fast and well, and when boats or ships came near him, he tinkledy-blinkledy-winkled a bell, so that all the world could hear him. And all the sailors and admirals cried, when they saw him near in the further side, "He has gone to fish for his Aunt Jabista's runcible cat with crimson whiskers." But before he touched the shore of the Bristol Channel, a sea-green porpoise carried away his wrapper of scarlet flannel. And when he came to observe his feet, formerly garnished with toes so neat, his face at once became forlorn on perceiving that all his toes were gone. And nobody ever knew from that dark day to the present whoso had taken the Pobble's toes in a manner so far from pleasant, whether the shrimps or crawfish grey or crafty mermaids stole them away. Nobody knew and nobody knows how the Pobble was robbed of his twice 5 toes. The Pobble who has no toes was placed in a friendly bark, and they rowed him back and carried him up to his Aunt Jabista's park. And she made him a feast at his earnest wish of eggs and buttercups fried with fish, and she said, "It's a fact the whole world knows that Pobbles are happier without their toes." On that note, I will leave you, but just remember that you are fully seen, fully known, and fully loved, even in these uncertain times. Till next time.